My name is Margaret, I'm 65 years old, and I raised my son Daniel all on my own. His father walked out on us when Daniel was just 5, and from that moment on, every ounce of my energy went into making sure my boy had a good life. I worked 2 jobs, gave up vacations, new clothes, even medical checkups sometimes, just to save enough to keep Daniel happy and educated. When he finally told me he was engaged to his college sweetheart, Emily, my heart nearly burst with pride. All those sleepless nights and sacrifices felt worth it. Daniel said he didn't want me to worry about wedding expenses, but I couldn't help myself. I poured my savings into it. The banquet hall, the catering, the flowers, the photographer, everything. This is your big day, I told him. Your happiness is my happiness. I spent weeks making sure every single detail was perfect. From the decorations to the guest list, I personally oversaw it all. People kept telling me, "Margaret, you're doing too much. Just let the kids handle it." But I wanted this to be the kind of wedding Daniel would never forget. And trust me, it was unforgettable, but not in the way I imagined. The church was glowing with soft lights. Guests were laughing, the music played beautifully, and I could feel tears of joy welling in my eyes as I waited for my son to walk down the aisle. I thought my life had come full circle, that I had finally given him the future he deserved. But that was the exact moment my entire world flipped upside down. As I stood near the front pew, adjusting my corsage and smiling at relatives, Emily, the bride, suddenly approached me. Her white gown sparkled under the lights, and for a split second, I thought she might hug me or whisper a thank you for all I'd done. Instead, she leaned close, her lips curling into a sharp smile that no one else could see. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered coldly. I blinked, confused. "Excuse me." "You heard me," Emily said, her voice low but venomous. "This is our wedding, not yours. Go home, Margaret. Leave. You're not wanted here." The words stabbed me harder than any knife. My cheeks flushed and my chest tightened. Around us, guests were laughing and sipping champagne, oblivious to the cruelty spilling from the bride's mouth. I tried to steady my voice. "Emily, I've planned this entire wedding, every detail. I'm Daniel's mother. Why would you say something like this?" Her smile widened, but her eyes were cold. "Because this is about me and him. Not you. You've hovered long enough. This is my day, not yours. Leave before you embarrass yourself." My hands trembled. For a moment I thought I'd collapse. But then Daniel appeared, looking radiant in his tuxedo, and hugged Emily from behind. She instantly softened, giggling and resting her head on his shoulder. He looked at me with so much love in his eyes, completely unaware of what his bride had just done. "Mom, isn't she beautiful?" he said warmly. I forced a smile, nodding, my throat aching from the tears I refused to shed. I won't ruin his day, I told myself. But as Emily smirked at me over his shoulder, triumphant like she just won, I realized something. This wasn't just disrespect. This was war. And I knew exactly how to fight it. The ceremony began, and I sat silently, my hands folded tightly in my lap. Everyone saw a proud mother of the groom, smiling faintly through tears, but inside I was burning. I replayed Emily's words over and over. "Leave before you embarrass yourself." Embarrass myself? After everything I had sacrificed? After draining nearly every penny from my savings to make this day possible? I had paid for the venue, the catering, the flowers, the live band, even the honeymoon flights. Every single bill had my name on it. And suddenly an idea formed in my mind, cold, sharp, and precise. If Emily didn't want me there, if she thought I was a burden instead of the backbone of this wedding, then maybe she should see what this perfect day looked like without me. By the time the vows were exchanged, I had already made up my mind. I would stay silent, let the pictures be taken, let the first dance whirl across the floor. But once the celebration reached its peak, I was going to make my move. The reception hall was glowing, music filling the air. Guests clinked glasses, laughter echoed, and Daniel held Emily's hand as if they were the only 2 people in the world. No one noticed when I slipped out quietly and walked toward the manager's office. No one noticed when I picked up the phone and made a single call. The call that would change everything. "Hello, this is Margaret Reed," I said calmly. "Yes, the mother of the groom. I need to cancel all outstanding wedding payments immediately. Charge nothing further to my account. In fact, revoke the deposits. Effective right now." The manager hesitated. "Ma'am, are you sure? This will mean—" "I'm sure." I cut in, my voice like steel. By the time I hung up the phone, my heart was racing. The countdown had begun. I returned to the reception, smiling politely at relatives, nodding along to the music, sipping champagne as though nothing had happened. Emily glanced at me from across the room, her eyes narrowing suspiciously. She didn't know yet. But she would. Oh, she would. The evening carried on like a fairy tale, for them at least. Daniel twirled Emily across the dance floor. Their friends cheered, glasses clinked. It looked like the picture-perfect wedding. But I knew the cracks were about to show. It started small. The band played one last song and then silence. Guests clapped, waiting for the next tune. But instead the lead singer leaned toward the microphone. Folks. Sorry to say this, but we've just been informed our payment has been revoked. We can't continue." Confusion spread across the room. Daniel's best man frowned. Emily's smile faltered. "What? That's ridiculous." Emily barked, rushing to the stage. But the band was already packing up their instruments. "We don't play for free," one of them muttered. I sat in the corner sipping my champagne, watching her face twist with frustration. Then, as if perfectly timed, the catering staff began wheeling away trays of untouched food. Guests murmured. Plates were whisked from tables mid-bite. "What is going on here?" Emily shrieked, her voice echoing over the room. The head waiter, stone-faced, replied, "No payment, no service." And with that the servers left. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some guests laughed nervously, assuming it was a mistake. But I could see Emily's composure cracking. Her cheeks flushed red, her eyes darted wildly. Then came the final blow. The venue manager himself walked into the reception, clearing his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the inconvenience, but we've just been informed that the account funding this event has been closed. We'll have to ask everyone to leave within the next 20 minutes. The hall erupted in chaos. Emily spun toward Daniel, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Did you know about this? Did you do this?" Daniel raised his hands, bewildered. "What are you talking about?" "Of course I didn't. Mom, what's happening?" I stood slowly, the eyes of the room following me. Emily glared at me like a cornered animal, suspicion blazing in her gaze. And for the first time that night I smiled. I set my glass down gently, letting the room quiet around me. Guests stared, whispers spreading like wildfire. Daniel's eyes searched my face, desperate for answers. Emily's fists clenched at her sides, her white gown trembling with every furious breath. "You want to know what's happening?" I said, my voice steady, calm, but loud enough to carry across the hall. "I'll tell you." I walked to the center of the room, my heels clicking against the polished floor. All those years of sacrifice, all the love I had poured into raising my son, came boiling to the surface. "I paid for this wedding," I began, locking eyes with Emily. "Every flower, every plate of food, every drop of champagne. I made this day possible." Gasps filled the air. Emily's face drained of color. "And yet," I continued, "not 2 hours ago, this bride told me I wasn't welcome here. She looked me in the eye and told me to leave my own son's wedding. After everything I've done, for him, for her, for this day." Daniel froze. "Emily, is that true?" His voice cracked, barely a whisper. Emily's lips parted, but no words came out. The silence was damning. So I delivered the final strike. "So yes, I canceled it all. The band, the catering, the venue gone. Because if I'm not welcome at this wedding, then neither is my money." The room erupted. Some guests clapped in shock. Others muttered in disbelief. Daniel's best man let out a low whistle. Emily snapped, her voice shrill and desperate. "You vindictive old woman. How dare you humiliate me like this?" But Daniel didn't defend her. He didn't rush to her side. Instead, he stared at her as though seeing her for the very first time. "Emily," he said slowly, "you told my mom to leave? After everything she's done for us?" Emily stammered, her mask cracking. I just wanted the day to be about us, not her." "No," Daniel interrupted, his tone firm, final. "You wanted it to be about you. Just you." And in that moment, the fairy tale she had envisioned crumbled into ashes. The hall had gone silent except for Emily's heavy, ragged breathing. Her perfect bridal curls shook as she tried to grasp at control, but it was slipping through her fingers like sand. Daniel's face was pale, his jaw clenched. He turned toward me, his mother, the woman who had carried him through life with nothing but grit and love. "Mom," he said softly, his voice breaking, "is it true? You did all this for me?" I nodded, tears stinging my eyes. "Every penny, Daniel. I wanted you to have the day you dreamed of. And I would have given it all gladly, if only I were treated with the respect I deserved." The crowd was holding its breath. All eyes were on my son. Emily stepped forward, grabbing his arm desperately. "Danny, don't listen to her. She's manipulating you. She's always been controlling, don't you see? This is our wedding, not hers." But Daniel shook her off, his eyes flashing with anger I hadn't seen since he was a boy defending himself on the playground. "Controlling," he hissed. "Emily, she raised me alone. She worked herself sick just so I could stand here today. And you told her to leave? You wanted to erase her from the most important day of my life." Emily's mouth opened, but no words came. Her perfect facade shattered under the weight of truth. Daniel turned to me again. His hand reached out, trembling, and I took it. For a moment, it felt like the little boy who once clutched my hand on his first day of school was standing before me again. "Mom," he whispered, his eyes glassy. "I'm so sorry." Then he looked at Emily, his voice turning to steel. "This wedding is over." The gasp that rippled through the room was louder than any music that had played that night. Emily's face twisted in horror. You can't be serious. You can't just end it now." But Daniel didn't flinch. "I won't marry someone who disrespects my family. If you can't love the woman who gave me everything, then you don't love me either." And with that, he tore off his ring and set it on the nearest table. The room erupted, half in applause, half in stunned silence. I stood there, hand still in my son's, my heart pounding with both grief and pride. My revenge had been swift and brutal, but it had revealed the truth. Emily never wanted a partner. She wanted a stage. And that stage just collapsed beneath her. Emily's scream echoed through the hall, but it only made the guests more uncomfortable. Some were already gathering their coats, whispering to each other about what they had just witnessed. A few even came up to me quietly, patting my shoulder, murmuring, "Good for you." She had it coming. Daniel didn't wait for Emily's tears or excuses. He simply turned to the venue manager and said, "Please show her out." The manager nodded firmly. Within moments, Emily, the bride who thought she had it all, was escorted out of her own wedding, her veil dragging behind her like the last shred of dignity she had left. The hall fell quiet again, and all eyes turned back to me and Daniel. My son exhaled, shoulders slumping, as if the weight of years had just lifted. "Mom," he said softly, "I don't care if there's no music, no food, no celebration. What matters is you. You've always been there for me. And I should have seen sooner what kind of person Emily really was." I brushed a tear from his cheek, my voice trembling. "I didn't want to ruin your day, sweetheart. But I couldn't let her humiliate me and get away with it." He pulled me into a hug, strong and unyielding. "You didn't ruin anything. You saved me." The guests clapped, not because of a wedding, but because they had witnessed something far rarer, truth. Daniel and I walked out of that hall together, side by side, with no regrets. The flowers, the decorations, the ruined reception, it didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that he chose respect, love, and loyalty over vanity and cruelty. As we stepped into the cool night air, Daniel squeezed my hand. "From now on, Mom, it's you and me. No one will ever come between us again." I smiled, the stars above blurring through my tears. That's all I ever wanted. And for the first time that night, I felt victorious. Not just because I had taken revenge on the woman who tried to erase me, but because I had gained something much greater. My son's heart, his loyalty, his love. And that was worth more than any wedding could ever buy.